On Friday morning, the St. Petersburg Forum was sniffed by dogs. The bald Führer promised to personally visit the mournful event. And also they jammed the GPS to avoid a welcome attack by drones. On the eve of the chorus of economists and financiers spoke about the health of the late economy. They say, no sanctions cancer touched its internal organs, and no epilepsy struck. Mother lay as she lay. The ruble soars above the dollar, reaching unimaginable heights, and promises to rise even higher. And in general, such a lively reigned that the Arabs danced with Kalash, and even the dead Zhirek began to broadcast from the other world blue, artificial, but intellectual. And even Delimkhanov, who seemed to be covered with fire from the armed forces of Ukraine, still life-affirming whispered to Kobzon, "You're lying, you won't sing." And Lukashenko, immersed in the process of obtaining nuclear weapons, turned pink like a ghoul before dinner. "I will strike without much thought. 1,000,000 people will die immediately." Meanwhile, Prigogine was rushing through the cave cemeteries, handing out satsky and wreaths to the relatives of the dead, a uniformed groom who is wooing the presidency. This one, if you do not agree, will not even plant a bottle, he will immediately sledgehammer. And propagandist Karaganov flies over the graveyard grace like a petrel of a nuclear apocalypse, explaining why it is vitally important to hit the West with a nuclear weapon. That such a move would bring the West to reason, forcing it to abandon NATO expansion. This is a morally terrible choice. We use the weapons of God, dooming ourselves to severe spiritual losses. But if this is not done, not only Russia may perish, but most likely the entire human civilization will end, the old KGB officer Karaganov broadcasts, sprinkling nuclear ashes on the heads of the Kremlin hawks. The upgame has begun. At the next meeting of the Ramstein format, the collective West makes it clear that they will not retreat from Ukraine, and the roadmap for its entry into NATO will be ready for the Vilnius summit. Putin and his entourage bring to the attention of the collective West that by July 11, Lukashenko will have all the nuclear tools necessary to deliver retaliatory strikes against the insolent West. Say, only the Kakhovskaya hydroelectric power station, the Crimean Titan, and the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant will not get off. We will smash the whole of Europe into dust, if necessary. Grossi again visited the captured nuclear plant, pulling his mask of concern even deeper. The presidents of Egypt and Uganda are already refusing to meet with the fitful Putin, having lowered the status of their participation in the St. Petersburg Skoniak to the level of a representative and a prime minister, respectively. The main thing is not to pick up any toxin from the nuclear dwarf. And only the presidents of Senegal and South Africa are rushing about with the African plan to appease the bald head, begging the Kremlin to withdraw its troops from the territory of Ukraine, and The Hague to suspend the international court order to arrest Putin. On Friday, they arrived in Kyiv to Zelensky to meet with Putin on Saturday. The peacekeepers do not understand that the conflict between the Kremlin boys and the West is of an existential nature. The schemers were not allowed further than the hallway, but, smelling the rotten smell of crime mixed with revanchism, they were completely thrown out of the door, after which the lads conceived a Ukrainian vendetta. No wonder every appearance of the main Gopnik is accompanied by whining about how he was thrown, deceived and offended by Western partners. Its goal is to win over the leaders of the third world countries, who have long been wondering what can be done in the modern world and what cannot. In terms of such probing, Putin is certainly a frontman. All the Papuans of geopolitics, reaching for the roots, are guided by his impudence and grayness. And only the determination of the United West, voiced by the European Parliament and supported by the US administration, is able to adequately respond to the increase in the degree of nuclear blackmail. Another burned-out firebrand, Grigory Yavlinsky, predicted a 10-year conflict that is doomed to either fade or flare up. Political Mr. Cider does not take into account one thing. Crazy leaders are mortal, and, as a rule, the crazy fantasies, far-fetched claims, militaristic manners and other eccentricities go into oblivion with them. And the plebs, having casually trampled on the portrait of yesterday's Tsar, turns their eyes to the new one until he, too, begins to stream something myrrh. The bald man streamed myrrh with shit and blood. What will flow from the next one hell knows. Because God did not even spend the night in Russia.